What happens when two nations become so powerful that the entire world is forced to choose a side? After World War II, only two true superpowers remained: the United States and the Soviet Union. Although they never fought each other directly, they entered a decades-long struggle for global influence known as the Cold War. This wasn't just a military rivalry. It was a battle between two completely different ways of life. America championed capitalism and democracy, while the Soviet Union promoted communism. Each believed its system was the future, and both raced to spread their influence across the world. The competition quickly expanded into every area imaginable: economic power, military strength, science, technology, and even space. At the end of World War II, the United States held a major advantage. Its economy was booming, its industries were thriving, and it was the only nation with atomic bombs. Major international organizations like the United Nations, the World Bank, and the IMF were also headquartered in the United States, giving America enormous global influence. In the UN Security Council, the US and its allies held significant power through the veto system, allowing Washington to shape many international decisions. The Soviet Union refused to fall behind. Its scientists launched an intense effort to build their own atomic bomb, and in 1949, they successfully tested one in Kazakhstan. The news shocked the United States because America's nuclear monopoly had just ended. The shock became even greater when investigators discovered that Soviet spies had obtained secret information from America's atomic program. The investigation centered on David Greenglass, who admitted passing nuclear information to the Soviets. His testimony led to the arrest of his sister, Ethel Rosenberg, and her husband, Julius Rosenberg. Both were convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage and executed in 1953. Their case remains one of the most controversial trials in American history, with protests taking place across the country and around the world. Fear of communism spread rapidly throughout America. Senator Joseph McCarthy accused thousands of government employees, military personnel, artists, and ordinary citizens of having communist ties. Many people lost their careers, and some, including Charlie Chaplin, left the United States during this period. The era became known as McCarthyism. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union continued expanding its influence across Europe. In 1948, communists took control of Czechoslovakia. Soon afterward, Moscow blockaded West Berlin, hoping to force the Western Allies out of the city. Instead of giving up, the United States and its allies launched one of history's greatest humanitarian air operations. For nearly a year, aircraft delivered food, fuel, medicine, and other supplies to more than 2 million people trapped inside West Berlin. The Soviet blockade failed, but tensions between East and West reached a dangerous new level. The Berlin crisis convinced the United States that Europe needed a permanent military alliance. In April 1949, 12 nations signed the North Atlantic Treaty, creating NATO. Its central promise was simple: an attack on one member would be treated as an attack on all. The Soviet Union answered in 1955 by creating its own military alliance, the Warsaw Pact, dividing Europe into two armed camps. But the Cold War's first major battlefield wasn't Europe, it was Asia. Like Germany, Korea had been divided after World War II. The North was backed by the Soviet Union and led by a communist government, while the South was supported by the United States. On June 25, 1950, North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel and invaded South Korea. Within days, they captured Seoul, the South Korean capital. President Harry Truman believed that allowing South Korea to fall would encourage communist expansion across Asia. Acting through the United Nations, the United States assembled an international force led by General Douglas MacArthur. UN troops pushed North Korean forces back, crossed into North Korea, and captured Pyongyang. It appeared the war might soon be over. Then the conflict took a dramatic turn. Communist China, led by Mao Zedong, warned the United States not to approach its border. When those warnings were ignored, hundreds of thousands of Chinese soldiers entered the war. The massive Chinese offensive stunned American and UN forces. Pyongyang was retaken. Seoul fell once again. And for the first time, the United States faced the possibility of a major military defeat in Asia. The crisis became so serious that President Truman publicly considered using atomic weapons.
Would the atom bomb be the answer to the Chinese hordes? President Truman said that it was under consideration. On his word alone rested the decision to unleash this awful force.
Mao warned that such an attack could trigger an even larger war. Instead, American forces launched Operation Reaper in 1951, slowly driving Chinese troops back. Seoul was recaptured, and after 2 more years of brutal fighting, an armistice was signed on July 27, 1953. The war ended almost exactly where it had begun, near the 38th parallel. More than 36,000 Americans lost their lives. Chinese casualties were even higher, and Korea remained divided, a division that still exists today. The Korean War ended, but the Cold War was only getting more dangerous. Now the United States and the Soviet Union were competing to build the world's deadliest weapons. In 1952, America tested the first hydrogen bomb, Ivy Mike. It was around 700 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Just 3 years later, the Soviet Union tested its own hydrogen bomb, proving it could match America's nuclear power. The race quickly expanded beyond bombs. In 1954, the United States launched the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, USS Nautilus. The Soviets soon responded with their own nuclear submarine and developed powerful intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads across continents. Then came a moment that stunned America. On October 4, 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite ever placed into orbit. For the first time, the Soviets had beaten the United States into space. Americans feared that if the Soviets could launch a satellite, they could also launch nuclear missiles anywhere on Earth. The United States answered by launching Explorer 1 in 1958 and dramatically increasing investment in science, education, and missile technology. The space race had officially begun. During the 1950s and 1960s, fear of nuclear war became part of everyday American life. Families built fallout shelters beneath their homes. Schools practiced duck and cover drills. Public buildings were stocked with food, medicine, and emergency supplies. Massive underground bunkers were constructed to protect government leaders if nuclear war ever broke out. Then, in 1962, the world came closer to nuclear destruction than ever before. The Soviet Union secretly placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. Those missiles could strike Washington, New York, and many other American cities within minutes. American surveillance aircraft discovered the missile sites, and President John F. Kennedy addressed the nation on television. He announced a naval blockade around Cuba and demanded the missiles be removed. For several tense days, Soviet ships approached the blockade while American warships waited. One wrong move could have started a nuclear war. The danger grew even greater when Cuban forces shot down an American U-2 spy plane, and a Soviet submarine nearly launched a nuclear torpedo after mistaking U.S. warning charges for a real attack. Only the restraint of key officers prevented disaster. Behind the scenes, Kennedy and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev negotiated a peaceful solution. The Soviet Union agreed to remove its missiles from Cuba. In return, the United States pledged not to invade Cuba and secretly agreed to remove its own nuclear missiles from Turkey. The Cuban Missile Crisis ended peacefully, but it reminded the world how close humanity had come to nuclear catastrophe. Even while preparing for possible nuclear war, America was experiencing an extraordinary period of growth. Millions of new homes were built across the country. Car production reached record levels, turning the automobile into a symbol of the American dream. A booming economy created millions of jobs, and families enjoyed a standard of living unmatched anywhere in the world. At the same time, the country experienced the baby boom. Between 1946 and 1964, about 76 million children were born, creating one of the largest generations in American history. But beneath this prosperity, a major injustice remained. Millions of Black Americans still face segregation, discrimination, and unequal rights. Their fight for equality was gaining momentum and would soon transform the nation forever. The Cold War had made America a global superpower, but its next great battle would not be fought overseas. It would be fought at home, in the struggle for civil rights, equality, and the promise that freedom belongs to every American. That story begins next.